You know, I've been called a shark. I've been called a bulldog. I've been told I'm difficult to work with from other agents, things like that. Well, I'm only difficult to work with. I'm only a shark and a bulldog on behalf of my clients. Hi, I'm Wade Hansen. I've been selling luxury real estate in Minnesota and Wisconsin for over 23 years. My entire career has been spent protecting my clients from misinformation and unethical practices by those not looking out for their best interests. This podcast will give you the raw truth about everything real estate so you can make solid, informed decisions about the biggest investment of your lifetime. This is the Raw Real Estate Podcast. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Today I want to talk about something that's really kind of near and dear to my heart and really one of the reasons I started this Raw Real Estate Podcast, and that's things that desperately need to change in our industry. If you've watched any of my previous podcasts, I've kind of laid the foundation with a number of guests on my podcasts. Anything from the owner of RE/MAX, the CEO of RE/MAX, the owner of the largest real estate team in Minnesota, the owner of a real estate school in Minnesota, the largest real estate school. All of these people seem to have, I've asked them the same questions, and they seem to have the same answer consistently, and that is things need to change in our industry. And what needs to change, first and foremost, is the competence and the professionalism. And I've just been so disgusted by that in my 23 years in this business, and specifically the last 2 years during COVID, when it's been just a flood of anybody and everybody getting into the business. It's really prompted me to kind of speak out on this topic a little bit. And all of these CEOs and professionals and owners that I just previously mentioned that have been on my podcast, they all agree that the barrier of entry is so low in our industry that until that changes, we're never going to have the competence or the professionalism that we need to really represent a home buyer or home seller the way they should be represented. Our industry, in my opinion, has become nothing more than a multi-level marketing scheme. And what I mean by that is get into the industry, start a real estate team, bring on a bunch of people, just warm bodies. If they can fog a mirror, put them on your team, hope they sell a couple homes under you. You get a split off of their split, and you ride off into the sunset with a fat paycheck. For whatever reason, the craftsman, as I call it in this industry, has vanished. And I think I'm one of those still left standing, one of those that really looks out for the seller, that really looks out for the buyer, that really likes to negotiate, that really likes for a seller to win in negotiations. That really takes a lot of pride in helping a buyer buy and a seller sell, and not just starting a large team and building this pyramid so that I can make money off of anybody and everybody underneath me. And I can't tell you how many people have come to me wanting to join my team or be a part of what I do that I've just turned away, because I always believe that you're judged by your worst player, and I don't want a bunch of bad players out there representing me and what I do. And I think that that's what our industry's become. And you go to 3 weeks of real estate school, you spend a couple grand, and you're out there representing the largest financial investment and biggest business transaction that most people will make in their lifetime. And I just don't think that that's okay. Many agents right now think that they can go get licenses in 5 different states, for instance, and properly represent you, in Florida while working in Minnesota, or Arizona while working in Colorado, or whatever it might be. And I'm just seeing they're just going and getting their licenses in these states where the market is hot just so they can sell a house or two. And I just don't understand how they can accurately understand the dynamics of each individual marketplace to properly represent a buyer or seller. So the competence and professionalism piece, if the consumer could only see what I see and what other agents see go on a daily basis in our industry, I think we'd be out of a job. I think that some of the schemes, some of the backhandedness, some of the shadiness, some of the incompetence, it's just baffling to me what goes on in my industry, and that they get away with it, and that the consumer is okay with it, and that it continues to go on, and it hasn't changed. Our transaction, or buying and selling a home, has become more complicated over the 23 years I've been doing this, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in the real estate transaction or in the paperwork or in the ability to get your license or the threshold to get your license to increase the competence and professionalism. For example, one thing that really bothers me is the guaranteed offer program. And there's a number of companies that offer this, and one of them was just under a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for not being transparent with the client. And what I mean by that is it's smoke and mirrors, or it's a bait and switch program. It's an opportunity for you to pick up the phone and hope that you're going to get a nice high guaranteed offer from the agent that you reach out to. And really what it turns into is an offer under market value, substantially under market value, with a substantial amount of fees, sometimes as much as 10 to 12%. Another thing that I think desperately needs to change in our industry is there's this whole thought that we're all in this together, right? That all of the agents are in this together, and it's supposed to be this kumbaya, win-win situation for everybody. And I don't know where we lost track of the fact that I represent the buyer, you represent the seller, here we go in negotiations, and it's not going to be a win-win or a group hug. And, you know, I've been called a shark, I've been called a bulldog, I've been told I'm difficult to work with from other agents, things like that. Well, I'm only difficult to work with, and I'm only a shark and a bulldog on behalf of my clients. You know, I think my clients should be owed that fiduciary duty of representing their best interests and negotiating on their behalf to get them top dollar or the best value on the other end. And so many agents think that we just need to just try to put a deal together and love one another and get to the closing table and earn a commission check. And that's, to me, just isn't the way this business should be. Somebody should represent one party, somebody should represent the other, and you know, in my opinion, I don't think it's ever a win-win. I think somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. That's just typically the way a real estate transaction goes. Now, there's exceptions to that rule, of course, but I think the fact that you know, agents and consumers think that this needs to be a big win-win and a kumbaya and a love your other realtor is just is wrong. I mean, we're competitors. Are we friendly competitors? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you know, just to try to get a deal done and get to the closing table isn't in the client's best interests. Another thing I think needs to change is the consumer's perspective that all realtors are created equal. I think they all think that because we have a business card with a logo on it, we're all the same. And there's a reason some agents charge X to list your home and others charge Y. Some agents are going to get you a lot more money than others. It's not the market that's going to sell your home. It's the marketing and the agent. And I think there needs to be an understanding from the consumer that we're not all created equal. And just because one's going to charge less than the other doesn't mean you're going to make more money on the sale of your home. So really, you know, understand who you're hiring and who's going to represent your best interests in that transaction. On that note, I think we're looked at, for the most part, and rightfully so, I think, in our industry, we're looked at as used car salesmen. So the client's opinion and trust of a real estate professional is probably at its lowest ever. And I think that's the fault of us as realtors in the industry. I'm not looking to bash individual realtors. I'm here to bash really the real estate industry as a whole. I think it's in a really bad place right now. And I think that something needs to change so that the consumer has a better appreciation for who we are, what we do, how we do it. And until that changes, I think that real estate's going to continue, or the real estate industry is going to continue to decline, and the professionalism is going to continue to decline. So to wrap this up, if you really want to get a better understanding of what needs to change in the real estate industry, go back to some of my previous episodes and watch my interviews with some of these professionals in the industry. And in the theme and the underlying concerns are all the same, and that is we need more competence, we need more professionalism, we need just a higher barrier of entry to get into this business, and I think we need an ongoing, how do I put this, an ongoing threshold year in and year out that we need to meet in order to maintain our license. And until we have these things, I think our industry is going to continue to slide. I see so many agents that are doing this part-time and selling 1 or 2 homes a year. And until we have some sort of standard that you must sell a certain number of homes a year to be a real estate professional, we're going to continue to have a bad perception amongst consumers. And, it really needs to change. There's a way to do it. And I hope someday we figure that out. And I hope, the consumers will eventually find more professionalism, higher standards, and a better level of service in our industry. If you're thinking of buying or selling, please don't hesitate to reach out to me to find out what makes me unique in the real estate industry.
Thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. If you have any feedback for this episode or want to suggest a future topic or even possible guests, head to wadehanson.com. There you can get links to my Facebook and LinkedIn pages. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see the video version of this podcast too. Again, thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. We'll talk soon.